Chapter 13. The Kids Talk. Disclaimer. I don't own anything related to Harry Potter. That privilege belonged to J.K. Rowling and all those who she lets make money for her. HPHPHP, August 7, 1989. It had been a week, and everyone in the pro-security group, as they called themselves, gathered to see how the crystals were working. While the parents were in the formal dining room chatting, the kids were gathered outside. The parents and the kids that were pro-Dumbledore were not invited that day. They still met with them after school since they didn't want to ostracize them. They just didn't tell them about the crystals or spells. They were all playing in the backyard to the Potter Manor. It was huge, with sprawling greens that seemed to go on for miles, though the kids were only allowed to go the first set of windbreak trees. The trees were starting to turn, but the grass was still very green. Some of the children were flying their brooms, for those so inclined. The others were running in the tree line. After playing a rounding game of hide-and-go-seek, which was more fun with brooms, the kids gathered in a circle. "So," Harry said after they all settled, "how are the crystals working for you guys? I know I wake up calmer and I'm starting to think straighter. Since we don't know anyone who knows legilimency, we can't really test our bubbles." "Mummy's voice is very soothing. She keeps the heligraphs away with just her talking," Luna said in her dreamy, vacant voice, so much like her mother's. Her wide grey eyes wandered around the group. "I've added so many interesting creatures in my mind. I'm sure that the Raxperts will not be making my mind cloudy, and the added bonus of keeping the heligraphs and noggles away. They all affect your mind, you know. I felt ever so much calmer, and my mind is much clearer. I feel that all of you will benefit from these crystals." "Okay, Luna, what's a heligraph?" Harry took the bait, but her explanations were so much fun. A heligraph is a tiny creature that looks like a silver crab. It crawls into your bed at night and whispers facts in your ear, making you think too hard to go to sleep. Usually, I drink a cup of nettle tea before bed to keep them away, but this is so much better, and I don't have used the loo quite as often, the blonde explained with a seriousness that only she could pull off. Everyone smiled at the eccentric girl. They had long gotten used to her. She was one of the ones that most everyone vowed to protect in Hogwarts. They knew that her quirkiness would cause people to hate her. They already protected her in the Muggle school. The kids there said some pretty hateful things to Luna out on the playground when there were no teachers about. Ellie Godfrey and Astoria Greengrass were her most-fierce protectors since they were in her class. The two girls tried to get Luna to stand up for herself, but she would just wave it off and say it was not the bullies' fault that they were infected with some bizarre creature or other. They did finally get her to dress more like a muggle in school and less like a flower child. Padma and Parvati gave Luna a big hug and then settled next to her. "I like the line that tells us to treat everyone the same. Well, I should say," Padma said with a thoughtful expression, bringing the subject back to the crystals. "I think it is a good idea to have that in our subconscious. We're going to run into some pretty snobbish children. If we keep our cool, then we might not make enemies." She looked around and bit her lip. "I know our parents are worried that we will be separated when we get to Hogwarts, but we are very tightly knitted, and I'm sure that we won't. At least I hope," she said, keeping her arm around Luna. She was almost positive this quirky girl would be in Ravenclaw, because for all her vacantness, this was one smart young lady. Luna was top of the class, and if they were in the same house, she'd watch out for her. "It was a little weird at first, but after a few nights I got used to it," Terry Boots said with a shrug, throwing a small ball in the air while he talked. "When you have a mind that was always thinking, it was hard to concentrate on meditation." He was one of the few that didn't pick up on the afternoon meditation very well. It took him months just to clear his mind, but he persevered and now was meditating with the best. When he found out that it would help him remember things better and that it would help him think more clearly, it got easier. Luna's right, her mum's voice is very soothing. I've never fallen asleep so fast and slept so well. I like the part that helps organize the mind. I've got a library set up, and I'm working through all the crap that is in my head. I didn't realize I had so much useless information in there." "Well," Gary said with a small smirk, like he was going to share a great secret, "Padfoot gave me a bit of information that I think will help a lot of us in the long run. Not only is this setting us up for occlumency, it is also giving us a path to become animagus. Gasps were heard around the group, and everyone broke out in exciting whispers. But, he said, holding up his hands, he did warn me that not everyone can do this. So we need to decide it if we want to, because some of us will be left out, and I don't want to alienate anyone. The last thing we need is to have jealousy in our group. Yeah, Hannah Abbott said sadly, her blonde hair falling in her face as she leaned a little forward to pick morosely at the grass around her. I already feel bad that Susan isn't part of this particular group. She is my best friend. If we decide to become animagus, then we need to bring the rest of the mutineers in on it and decide as a full group. I know, Harry said with a small frown. I feel bad that not everyone is here too. We've all been together for a long time, and it is a shame that their parents don't feel the same way ours do, making us split like this. Maybe we can talk to the other kids after we get to Hogwarts and see if we can bring them in without their guardian's knowledge, he said, not really holding out hope for Ron and Percy, but he did feel good for the Weasley twins and Ginny. That might work, Hannah said, perking up. Susan says she really doesn't feel the way her aunt does. I think I can talk her around. I just hope, Megan Jones said with a happy, wishful smile, that we can all still be friends even if they don't come around. I like everyone in this group, and I don't like keeping secrets. Maybe we can get the adults to make a different meditation crystal for the pro-Dumbledore people. It would be one less secret. Maybe even add a line in theirs like, trust your friends, or careful who you trust, or something. We can ask the adults. That way they won't feel left out, and I know that some of the hotheads would benefit from them. I wouldn't hold up to much hope for some of them, Michael Corner reflected sadly. Some of those guys are too much into sports and not big on learning. Besides, even with the crystals, most of the die-hard Dumbledore fans won't be swayed. He held out his hands when the protest started. I'm not saying we stop being friends with them. After all, they are part of the mutineers. I'm just saying don't hold out hope. Everyone here knows that Ron Weasley hates everything Slytherin, and that when we're sorted, he will more than likely not talk to anyone sorted in that house. He's also not known to keep his opinion to himself. I don't think he will be part of our group after the first week of school. Yeah, Wayne Hopkins said, nodding in agreement. He'll probably take Finnegan with him. Those two are tighter with each other than they are anyone else in the mutineers. He smiled fondly and shook his head. It must be all the sports they bonded over. Poor Ron never knew Muggles had so many sports. I'm surprised his head didn't explode when he found out about football. I'm as much into sports as the next guy, but those two are fanatics. Nice blokes, though I'd hate to lose them. There were sad nods around the group. It would have been unrealistic of us to think that we could keep everyone together, Daphne Greengrass said knowingly. She had been on the hateful end of some of Ron's biting comments. I know we were all hoping that we could, but honestly we knew that wouldn't happen. Well, Tracy Davis added with a bright smile, trying to cheer everyone up. Even if they pull away from the group, that doesn't mean we still can't be friends with them. Then she got a thoughtful frown. Now that we have the mirrors, we can still organize a way to meet without anyone who decides they want leave the group. I think we need to talk to the adults about a way to have the mirrors disappear, or a way so that anyone who goes can't really talk about us or what we do. Yeah, Mandy Brocklehurst said knowledgeably. If we are going to try and hide our activities from Dumbledore and the staff, then we don't want anyone telling them about the mirrors. And what about the parents that have the mirrors? We'll need a way to keep them from talking as well. The group talked about ways to get this accomplished and finally decided to take it to the adults. Smart as they were, they just didn't know enough. The gang got up and swiped off the grass from their clothes and started towards the house to talk to the parents. Harry saw Sally waving to him out of the corner of his eye and started to slow down. He bent down to give the illusion that something was wrong with his shoe. I heard what you guys were talking about, Sally said, when the rest of the group was far enough ahead. I tell your mum a spell that will make it so the mirrors disappear and modify the memories of those that want to tell Dumbledore. If they leave the group, they won't be able to tell anyone, because the spell will make them think that this is just a study group with no mischievous inclinations. That would be great, Harry whispered so he wouldn't be heard, retying his shoe and getting up. If you can do that, it would help a lot. We'll still have to talk to the parents, though, since not everyone knows about you. Maybe after everyone goes home, you can join us in the game room and tell Mum, Dad, and the uncles. We'll say that Mum can't share it because it's Potter family magic, he said thoughtfully, scratching his head. Yeah, Sally agreed with a cute nod of her head. Get the family together after everyone leaves and I'll join you. And she disappeared with a smirk. Gary, don't say anything, but Sally said she can help with keeping everything a secret, Harry projected to Gary. We're gonna meet with the parents after everyone leaves. Try and get Padfoot and Mooney's attention and tell them to stay. I'll talk to Mum and Dad. Okay, Harry, Harry heard in his head. I'll do that, thanks for the update. By this time, Harry had caught up with the group. What happened? Why did you fall back? Mandy questioned. Oh, Harry said. My shoe came off. I had to fix it. Oh, okay, she said with a shrug. The group made it to the house and was making their way to the dining room where they knew the parents were. They were quietly talking among themselves, discussing ways to bring up their worries without sounding like whiny little kids. As they got to the dining room, each kid broke off and went to their respective parents. What's up with you guys? James said, giving Gary a one-armed hug. Why so serious? Did something happen? Lily said, looking over the kids to see if there were any injuries. No one is hurt, are they? Causing all the parents to examine their children. No, Gary said, batting his dad's hand away. No one is hurt. We just have a few concerns we wanted to talk to you guys about. Well, that's a relief, Rachel Brocklehurst said. So, what's up? We were talking about how, if we can't bring the other kids into the group, they might tell Dumbledore about us, and we might get our mirrors taken away. Then we wouldn't be able to talk to you guys while we were at school, Padma said, settling on her dad's chair, making him scoot over so she could half sit on it. We were also talking about how some of the other kids will probably not be part of the mutineers after first year. Some of them have pretty radical ideas, and we haven't been able to dissuade them, Parvati finished for her twin. Yeah, Hannah Abbott said sadly, thinking of losing part of the group, cuddling with her mother. It makes us sad that we may lose one or two of our friends, but as Daphne pointed out, it was unrealistic of us to think we would all stand together. That, and we don't want a repeat of what happened to the Marauders. She looked bashfully at Sirius, James, and Remus. No offense. It is said to learn from history, though, so it doesn't repeat. They had all heard the stories about how tight the Marauders were in school and how Peter had betrayed them. The three men smiled fondly at the shy girl. None taken, Remus said with a sad look in his eye as he remembered the good time the Marauders had in school. You're right to think of that. If we had taken history seriously and learned from it, we would have caught on to Peter much sooner. Smart thinking, you guys. He reached over and messed up Harry's hair. That's actually good thinking, Wright said proudly, glad all the lesson these kids were getting on logical thinking was paying off. What else has you guys so concerned? Well, Astoria said, turning to Mr. Corner. We were also thinking that you guys could make up some crystals for the rest of the group. Just because they're pro-Dumbledore doesn't mean they should be left out of this. It's not something Dumbledore can control anyway. Just leave out the occlumency bit and concentrate on the organizing their mind and keeping control bits. And someone suggested adding a phrase in there about trusting friends. That way, if we can talk them around, they won't be far behind us. There was a nodding of heads among the children, showing they all felt that way. That is actually a good idea, Frank Longbottom said. We could even look into marketing those crystals and maybe the mirror, and set up a vault for future use. If you guys are sure that he, who must not be named, is going to come back, we'll need funds. A wonderful idea, Frank, Xenophilius said with a beaming smile. Pandora will be more than happy to do that. Won't you, my dear? He asked as he turned to his wife and daughter. Both female Lovegoods looked vacantly at the far wall, and then smiles burst from their lips at the same time. Yes, I think it will be a lovely idea, Pandora said dreamily, Luna nodding at her side. If Lily and James don't mind, I think we can set it up for me to record next weekend. That will give us some time to work on a script or two. We might want to make more of these crystals to cover many different things, but for now ones for the other children will be beneficial to the rest of the group. As the group began to discuss what they would need to do to keep their secrets, Gary made his way over to his dogfather and Remus. Hey, you guys might want to stick around after everyone leaves, he whispered with a wink. We're gonna talk to Sally. The two men nodded and then joined the rest of the group's discussion. The talk continued for about 40 minutes. It was decided that they would all think of ways to up the security and parted for their homes in a flurry of hugs and goodbyes. Potters and the rest of the Maunders went to the game room to talk more. Sally joined them soon after and told them what she had told Harry. They all agreed that it was a perfect idea. The rest of the night was spent in laughter and games until it was time for bed. "I'm glad you brought all that up to us," Lily said as they kissed Gary on the head after tucking him in. "I'm surprised we didn't think of it." "Mum, stop," Gary protested with a blush. "I'm getting too old for you to be tucking me. That and you know Sally will be here in a few minutes for lessons, so I don't see why you are still tucking me in." Now that the boys were in separate rooms, it was decided that Sally would alternate between them, and tonight was Gary's night. Lily frowned at the reminder that Sally was still giving the boys lessons, but they had talked about it before, and they all agreed that she would continue. "You will never be too old in my eyes," the red head mother stated, as many mothers before her had. "Besides, it gives me comfort. Will you really deny me that?" she said with a puppy dog face. "That's not fair," Gary said, giving his mother a hug. "Fine, but only until we get to Hogwarts. By then I'll be much too old to be Barbied," he relented. Lily mused up his hair and gave him another kiss. "Don't forget your crystal after Sally leaves." "Like Sally would let me," Gary grumbled as he laid back down, just to make his mother happy. "I will, Mum. Good night," he said to his mum as she was leaving the room. "Good night, sweetheart. Don't let Sally work you too hard," she said as she left the room. She met her husband in the hall. "Did Harry give you a hard time too?" "Yeah," James said sheepishly. "I'm pretty sure they set us up. I know when I was this age I felt the same way. My parents didn't let me get away with it either." He smiled sadly, remembering the fond times. "Do you want to go to bed or go back down into the game room and watch a movie?" Lily asked. "Let's watch a movie. I need something to keep my mind occupied for a while," he suggested as he snagged his wife around the waist and started for the stairs. "Good idea." And they went off to enjoy a quiet evening. Chapter 14. Lessons on Power and Death. Disclaimer: I don't own anything related to Harry Potter. That privilege belonged to J.K. Rowling and all those who she lets make money for her. HPHPHP January 15, 1990. Things had been going well for the Potters, the mutineers and their families. They had made crystals for everyone in the mutineers and their families. You could tell it was even helped the slower people in their group. Sirius, Xenophilius, and Kestrel McFay were working on ways to market the crystals and mirrors. If they became well-known items to Hogwarts teens, then hopefully no one could say that the mutineers thought of themselves as special, even if they did. Kestrel worked in marketing in the Muggle world, so she had some insight. She suggested that they set up a booth in Diagon Alley to cater to the younger crowd that sold the items all the mutineer children had. Sirius was going to finance it, and Zeno was going to advertise. Pandora, Lily, and a few other mums were making the scripts for the ones sold. Everything should be ready by March. But for now, things were quiet, and everyone was just settling back in school after the Christmas break. It was still plenty cold out, and the kids were all gathered together outside near the playground, bundled up and waiting for the stragglers. There was a sound like a car backfiring in an alley not far from the school. The boys of the group pushed the girls behind them in case there was trouble. Zeno came around the corner, and Luna took off to meet him. "Daddy, why are you here?" She laughed as he took her up in a hug, but the hug was too hard and her daddy was crying. "Daddy, Daddy, what's wrong?" Luna cried as she hugged her daddy just as tight. "Luna, my little moonflower, Daddy is so sorry. We need to go now. Say goodbye to your friends." Zeno's voice was hoarse from crying. You could now see the tear tracks on his face. He put his little girl down, but not letting go of her hand. Luna turned to her friends, her eyes wide and brimming with unshed tear. There were lines of worry on her normally clear face. All Harry could think is those lines should never be on that face. "I'm not sure why, but I have to go now. I will see you soon, I hope," she said, still clinging tightly to her father's hand. Various choruses of "I hope everything is okay, Luna," "Okay, Luna," and "See ya, Luna," echoed around the school playground. Zeno and Luna ducked back into the alley and disappeared with a pop. A few more pops were heard, and some other parents came to get their kids. The Weasleys and the Bones were two of them. All of them had sad looks on their faces. None would tell the children what was wrong. "I wonder what that was all about," Padma inquired, hoping it wasn't something too bad, but having a feeling it was, especially with the way all the adults looked. "It's not like Mr. Lovegood or the other parents to come and get their kids. They usually don't show for another few hours." She looked around the rest of the group, hoping someone had the answers. She only got blank faces and negative shakes of heads. Yeah, and Mr. Lovegood looked sadder than everyone else. Parvati agreed with her twin, having the same bad feeling. I hope it isn't too horrible news. She played nervously with her backpack. The remaining group made their way to Potter Manor, discussing school, sports, and what could have befallen the Lovegoods. They were met by the Potters, the Marauders, the Greengrass, the Longbottoms, and the Pattles. All the parents looked like someone had died. Gary and Harry saw Sally off to the side, nodding her head, confirming that fear. With stricken looks on their faces, they turned back to the adults and waited. Come inside, everyone. I'll get Tilly to make some hot cocoa, and we'll tell you what we know after everyone is warmed up, Lily said, putting her arms around the nearest couple of kids, and led the way. The other adults followed suit, and soon everyone was in the game room. They had chosen this room because if the kids got too emotional, then there could be accidental magic. But here it wouldn't happen. Beanbag chairs were brought out and placed between the many couches and chairs. Everyone settled his or her bags next to their feet, and soon all the kids had cocoa and the adults had tea. Well, now that everyone is warmed up, we have some very sad news. Alice took a deep breath. Tears were running down her face. Her voice hitched as she said, You all know Mrs. Lovegood experimented on spells, right? She was trying a new spell today when it went horribly, horribly wrong. She looked at all the young faces so untouched by death, except Harry and Gary, so to speak, and tried to figure out how to say the rest. Is she going to be okay? Hannah asked delicately, seeing the tears on the women's faces. No, sweetie, she died before anyone found her, Frank said bluntly, not wanting to give the kids false hope. There were gasps and cries of outright denials from the children. Searching for something that would help ease the shock, he said, We can truly take heart that little Luna wasn't there at the time. If she had not been friends with this group, then she wouldn't have attended the school and she would have been home. While there is no true reason to be happy, it will help that she will have all of us to be there in her time of need. Mr. Lovegood too, of course. Many of the girls broke down in tears, and the boys looked around either in confusion or with very pensive faces. Mum, what do we do to help? Astoria asked. She was determined to protect her little friend. Celeste took her daughter into her arms and considered what to say. She finally decided on, You know when you're sad and I take you into my arms like this and hold you really close and say silly little things like, SHH, it's all right, and it'll be okay. Astoria and a few of the other children who were listening nodded their heads. Well, the reason people do that and say those things are not for the words. It's because that's what they want to believe with their whole heart. They want to take the pain away, and sometimes you just have to hold really tight and believe really hard that you can make that happen for the person who is hurting. So, Lily said, catching everyone's attention, you just have to be there for her. I want you to just hang around her if you can. A small touch on the arm here, a peck on the cheek, there can go much further than always asking if she okay. We'll do what we can for both Lovegoods. I have to warn you, though, people who are grieving can be pretty stubborn about not needing help. I don't want you push yourselves on them, she hedged, knowing full well if she had to, she would push the Lovegoods into accepting help, but not wanting the children to be in such a position. Now, said Sirius, clapping his hands and rubbing them, trying to divert the attention away from the bad news, we've decided that it's only homework today and no lessons. We want to wait until Luna is back with us, so she doesn't fall behind. Some of you might feel better after some meditation, though, but we'll leave the choice up to you. Harry and Gary looked at each other and had a silent conversation. Mum, Dad, do you think we could go to our rooms after we do our homework? We won't be long. We just want to find something that will help Luna. We're not sure what, but there might be something there, Gary said. Not really lying, they would look for something after they talked to Sally. Sure, honey, after your homework, Lily said, wondering what the boys could possibly have in their room for a little girl. Soon all the homework was done, and the kids splintered off, some watching the telly, others on the computers. Still others took serious advice and tried to meditate. Harry and Gary slipped away to Harry's room. Sally, Harry said after he closed the door, can you come here for a minute, please? Sally appeared and stood in front of the boys. I know what you're going to ask, and yes, it was just her time. I won't apologize for this, she said firmly. I don't control when people die. I only helped your mum because of the damned prophecy. Had it not been for that, your mum and dad would have died that night, and you would now be in the control of Dumbledore, and that was something I couldn't allow." "I don't understand," said Harry. Extreme confusion showed on his face, along with some guilt. "Why are we so special that we get different treatment? What is it about this prophecy that lets you interfere with our lives and not the lives of our friends? You know how I told you that I see a little of the future?" The boys nodded. "If I had let your parents die that night, one or both of you would have turned to the dark path. It would have been vengeance on Dumbledore when you found out what he had done to your lives. Many deaths would have happened before their time. This has happened before in the past, when one, who thinks he knows more than others around him, interferes with someone else's life. I've had to bring someone back to life before, so that path was not followed. Now, it is only when it reaches epic portions that I do this. Gellert Grindelwald and Tom Riddle are tragic, however. What would have happened if the both of you turned dark would have been closer to world ending. The little girl did, he said, and motioned for them to sit on the bed, and when they did, she continued. Sally started pacing as she does whenever she gets in lecture mode, her tiny shoes making soft noises on the carpet. Prophecies are only made when something can be stopped. They are made so someone can step in and help change them. Unfortunately, your prophecy was heard by both Snape and Dumbledore. The reason this is bad is because Dumbledore is a very controlling man. He isn't evil or dark or anything as stupid as that, she said with a very stern look, wanting to make sure this was understood. He is just controlling. Had he not tried to gain control of either of you and only tried to help, then you would have lived a very good life without your parents. You would have grown almost as well as you are now. But we all know that didn't happen, and you are doing much better for it. Plus, remember this prophecy could have been about Neville as well, and if I saw something that would have turned him dark, I would have interfered in his life. She stood in front of the boys again with a very serious look on her face. Dumbledore is not your greatest enemy, and Riddle isn't either, for all he will try and kill you. The biggest enemy you have is yourselves. There are 3 factions in the world: dark, light, and grey. You've seen what happens when either the light or dark have too much power. If the light has too much power, then the world falls stagnant. If the dark had too much power, then the world falls, period. That is why there must be balance, the grey. I and your parents are raising you to be grey, and we are hoping that you will help your friends to be the same. I would never, never tell you to stop liking someone because they are light or dark, just to be wary of how much power they actually hold. This, of course, frightened the 2 boys. "Are you saying that we're too powerful, that we could destroy the world?" Gary asked in a very timid voice. He didn't want that kind of power. "You are powerful," Sally confirmed with a nod of her head. "However, you don't have it in you to destroy the world, not now that I've changed that. You've learned to share your power with all those around you by letting them help make choices and helping them learn, or any other ways you share. Your laughter, your tears, and your affections, you share it all with your friends and family. You two are some of the most kind and caring children I know," Sally said, touching each child on their cheeks. Calming the boys down, Sally had never lied to them before, so they will believe her now. "I would like to think that was because of mine, your uncles, and your parents' lessons. In addition, you have a large group of friends that stand by you. If you continue to meditate and share yourselves with everyone you care about, then you will never be evil." She started pacing again. Back to what started this discussion. Pandora, it was her time. There was nothing I could do to stop that. I wouldn't even if I could. You have to realize that people you know and love will die one day. Just be there for your friends and loved ones when it happens. The boys hung their heads a little. "Sorry, Sally. We didn't mean to accuse you. We just didn't understand." Harry said sheepishly, eyes peeking from under his bangs. Blush painted his cheeks. "I know, and I do understand. The one thing you have to remember about me is I am not human. I don't feel things the way you do. And when it comes to people dying, I am completely apathetic. I do understand that humans are not, though. Go back downstairs to your friends. They need you now." She gave each a hug and shooed them away. They left, forgetting they were supposed to be looking for something for Luna. It had been a long few days, where everyone in the group waited for Luna to show back up to school. She never did. They tried calling on the mirrors, the adults tried the flu, but no one answered. Finally, a feed-up James marched to the rookery and forced the 2 Lovegoods back to the manor. "I know you 2 want to grieve, and we'll let you do that. If you want to be alone, we'll let you do that too. But you are not taking care of yourselves, so you're going to let our house elves take care of you. We have guest rooms on the third floor set up for you as long as you need them. Luna, your classmates have your homework, and that might help you take your mind off things for a little while. Zeno, if you need help, there are many of the mutineers' parents that don't work that will be happy to help you. James said firmly after he had brought the Lovegoods into the game room and sat them on one of the couches. His family around him, with concern for the grieving family etched on their faces. We love you both, and we loved Pandora. We just want to help. Both me and James have lost loved ones, and we do know some of what you are feeling. The boys love Luna, and they want to help also. Will you let us help? Lily pleaded to the two miserable people huddled on the couch. Luna, who had been scrunched up at the end of the couch looking lost and stricken, looked at two of her male friends, and as if for the first time in days the cloudiness cleared and she saw hope. She held her arms out like a 2-year-old and begged with her face for cuddles. The boys flew across the room and enveloped her in a huge hug that might not ever stop. Zeno, seeing now what he had been doing to his beloved daughter by keeping her in the rookery, finally broke. The heartbroken wails could be heard around the manor. Lily ran to his side and gathered him up. James sat on his other side and rubbed his back. Together the two families grieved and healed. 2 weeks later, Zeno went back to the rookery, and his paper and Luna returned with him and started back at the school with her friends. Not completely healed, but much better than before. Before Pandora had died, she had completed 15 crystals to market. The only reason it would have taken until March was financing and marketing. Upon her death, the mutineer parents and partners jumped up their schedule and pushed through paperwork as fast as they could. As many crystals that could be made were. With Pandora's dreaming voice to calm the most excitable wizard, the crystals sold rather well. 20% of the proceeds went to the Lovegoods, 10% split to the partners, and the rest went into a vault for futures funds in case of a war. At the booth, called Pandora's Box, in Diagon Alley, where the crystal and mirror sold, hung a plaque that read, "In memory of our good friend and loved one, Pandora Lovegood, may she rest in peace." Chapter 15. Mandatory Shopping Trip. And flying solo on this, no beta. So any mistakes are of course my own. I do read over the chapters 3 times, sometime more, but I know I don't catch everything. If you see something that doesn't make sense or is a plot hole, feel free to tell me. I do have to warn you, if you got this far and it wasn't posted on the day you read it, I have a terrible habit of adding to chapters and reposting them. Thought you'd like to know. Disclaimer: I don't own anything related to Harry Potter. That privilege belonged to J.K. Rowling and all those who she lets make money for her. HP, August 3, 1991. Today is going to be a nightmare, Lily thought, as she went over who was coming with them and who wasn't. It was the day they would be shopping for Hogwarts supplies, and she wondered if she should flew all the shop owners to warn them of the group's approach. Maybe she would just tell Madame Malkin the seamstress was the gossip of the alley, and she would warn the other shops. That decided, she went over to the flue. "Madame Malkin's robes for all occasions," she called after she had thrown the flue powder into the fire. "Madam, are you near?" she said loudly, and waited on her knees, head in the green fire, for someone to answer. Boy, was she glad the kids had those mirrors. The only time they used the flue is for business, since all their friends had the other form of communication, and her knees were thankful. Pandora's box was doing quite well. Soon everyone would have the mirrors, and flues would only be used for travel. She couldn't wait for that day. Once again the Wisengamot had tried to interfere, but since they were magical artifacts and not Muggle, they couldn't. "Mrs. Potter, whatever can I do for you?" Madame Malkin asked as she came into the room, a pin cushion on her wrist, a tape measure around her neck, and pins sticking in various places around her dress, making her look like the seamstress she was. "I wanted to warn you, so you can inform everyone else. We're coming with a large group of first years. There will be 19 all told, not to mention the parents. We'll more than likely split up into groups of 5 or so, but we'll all be there in a few hours," Lily told the clothes maker. "Oh my, that is quite a few children to be coming all at once. Thank you, Mrs. Potter. You always were so kind-hearted. I'll warn the others so they can make sure they are stocked for such a large group. Off you go now. Let me get to my gossip," the kind old lady said, making shooing motions with her calloused hands. "See you in few hours, madam." Lily said, and pulled her head out of the fireplace. Getting to her feet, she went to call the males of the house. Boys, aren't you ready yet? Everyone will be here in an hour and you haven't eaten, she hollered up the stairs. Coming, Mum, came the twin replies. Lily, I can't find my green shirt, James said from the area of their bedroom. Then wear something else or ask one of the house elves where it is. It's not like I do the laundry, she answered her husband, shaking her head in frustration at that man. She turned and went into the kitchen to see if there was breakfast made. There was. Cold cereal, milk, toast, and fruit littered the table's center. Now if only her boys would hurry up. She sat at the table and waited. Lily knew that all the Weasley kids that were already in school were staying home today and shopping another day as to not overwhelm their mum. And all the kids that weren't going to school this year were doing the same for the same reason. So that left everyone Harry and Gary's age. It had taken months of planning to get all the parents to shuffle schedules so that they could all go today, and even with that shuffling, only the mums seemed to want to go. The men decided they didn't want to be shopping with all those women and made plans to be anywhere but Diagon Alley today, cowards. The others needed to find someone to tend the younger siblings. So it finally came down to her, Marley, Faye, Rachel, Wren, Pearl, Grace, Kiera, Gwenog, and Sarita. Like she said, a nightmare. She could finally hear the men folk coming down the stairs, and the fleeting thought of herd of hippogriffs is what they are filtered quickly through. Finally, you only have about 50 minutes to eat and then get cleaned up. Make sure you have your caps, not that they will help. I want to warn you, I told Madam Malkin we were coming, so expect the press. Do you remember what we talked about? Don't give any information away that we don't want given. Don't talk to them at all if you can help it. I am going to be telling them that we'll hold a press conference on the 1st, at the platform, Lily said, as she checked to make sure her boys were dressed appropriately. The twins were dressed in the exact same jeans, t-shirts, trainers, and carrying matching leather bottomless backpacks to hold their purchases. All the mutineers had one. The Potters made sure to give them out as Yule gifts last year. And since everyone got one, no one could complain that anyone was getting charity. Their hair was styled exactly the same, covering both sides of their foreheads. You decide to go as twins today? She asked with a tilt of her head. It was rare they dressed alike. Usually they dressed differently. The twin bond made them feel each other's feelings, so they decided in order to keep themselves separate beings, they wouldn't dress alike. Unlike the Weasley twins, who thrived on the whole two as one gig. The Patel twins were as different as dusk and dawn, not really that different, but enough that they could be in separate houses when they were sorted, much like her boys. Yeah, we're hoping that with our caps, we can fool the press. That way they won't just hound Gary. We warned the group we were going to be doing this. So whoever splits off with one of us will know that there might be harassment, Harry explained as he grabbed a bowl and poured some cereal and milk. Gary followed suit. James came in, dressed in casual pants and a button-up shirt with his golf shoes on. He gave his wife a kiss on the cheek, sat next to her and poured some tea. He'd eat in a minute. That is actually a really good plan, but how will your friends tell you apart? I mean, I assume you're keeping your hair down to hide your scars. The father asked, sipping his tea, looking over what was still on the table and wondering if he should fill up or eat light. Austin Godfrey was taking a bunch of the men golfing in the Muggle world, so he wanted to be sure that he wouldn't be weighed down by eating too much. On the other hand, it was a lot of walking. Do you guys have enough money, or are you going to the bank? He asked, putting some fruit on his plate, deciding to go light. Well, we told them ages ago how to tell us apart. What don't you know? Gary replied with a smirk. He knew his father never could tell them apart. His mother could, but Dad, well, not so much. Why don't you ever tell me? James asked in mock despair. He really enjoyed the game they played on Guess Who, which is why he never really bothered to learn the difference of the boys' faces. The only difference in the twins' faces, besides their scars, was a spattering of freckles across Gary's nose. Harry only had a few. They were light freckles. Being dark-haired boys, they didn't freckle like the Weasleys, but there were some there nonetheless. You know you love it, Harry teased with the same smirk his brother sported. And yes, we have enough money. We've been saving our allowance just for this day. He pushed his empty bowl away and started going through his bag to make sure he had everything. Gary soon was doing the same. 45 minutes later, everyone was gathered in the flu room to greet all the kids and parents. At 10, all the 11-year-old mutineers and parents were ready to go. They had split up in groups, boys and girls separated, with 2 to 3 parents for each group. They consisted of Group 1, Harry, Terry, Seamus, Neville, with Lily and Kiera Finnegan as chaperones. Group 2, Gary, Mike, Ron, Wayne, Marley Weasley and Ren Corner. Group 3, Hannah, Faye, Daphne, Padma, Leanne, Faye Abbott and Sarita Patel and Cherry Dunbar. Group 4, Alice, Mandy, Tracy, Megan, Parvati, Rachel Brocklehurst and Gwenog Jones. They all went to the leaky cauldron first and gathered around a few tables they pushed together to make last-minute plans. "Okay, let's have a raise of hands as to who needs to go to the bank," Cherry Dunbar said, raising her own hand. A quick count of hands showed that only 2 of the groups needed to get money, so it was decided that Group 1 would go to Ollivanders first. Group 2 and 3 would go to Gringotts, leaving Group 4 to go to Flourish and Blotts. Each party would work their way around the alley from there, taking at the most 1 hour for each store, or they'd be here when the shops opened the next morning. They all gathered at the wall behind the cauldron, which lead to the alley, and put Harry and Gary in the middle of the group. Lily had warned them knew it there might be a crowd, and the press. Some of the parents complained that she shouldn't have warned the shopkeepers, while others commended her on her smart thinking. They knew that if they were the ones working in the alley, they would have wanted to be told. They were correct. There was a large cluster of people just hanging around the entrance. But after the many times Lily had lost her temper in the past, the spectators simply watched and shouted thank yous to the Gary. They didn't crowd around them, just waved and yelled and went about their business. On the other hand, the reporters surged forward, the parents kept the kids behind them, and Lily raised her hands to stop the barrage of questions. She cast the spell to be heard. "We will not be answering any questions today," she said, ignoring the yells of complaints. "If you come to King's Cross on the 1st of September, inside the barrier," she stressed, "we will hold a press conference then. Know this. If you persist today, you will not get you answers on that day. We just want the kids to have a fun day of school shopping with their friends. Please, leave us alone today, and we will be more than happy to talk to you the day of the conference. Thank you." And she stepped back and waited to see what they would do, keeping her eye out for ones they would shun on the first. Almost immediately, most of the reports dispersed. It was rare that the Potters spoke to the press, and they didn't want to mess up their chances. A few persisted, but when no answers came from the determined-looking group, they finally disappeared as well, fading into the crowd hoping to catch the kids talking. Lily kept a special eye on Rita Skeeter. They'd already had issues with her. Harry's group made it to Ollivanders without any problems, laughing and joking all the way. They all speculated as to what their wands would be. Lily and Kiera smiled at the boys and followed closely to make sure no one wandered off. They came to the creepy store. Lily never understood why Ollivander never cleaned it up. Maybe he felt it made him more mysterious, when it just made him creepy. "Ah, yes, the Potters and friends, of course," came that voice that had scared Lily when she first stepped foot in this shop with Severus, oh so many years ago. It made the kids jump as well. She really didn't like this man. Lily Potter, 10 1/4 inches long, unicorn, swishy, made of willow. Nice wand for charm work. "Has it served you well?" "It's a perfect wand," Lily responded. "Now it's time for the children to get theirs. Sorry to cut you short, but we're on a schedule. Lots to do today," she told him, wanting to get out of this shop as fast as possible. "Yes, Madam Malkin flew earlier and warned us all that you would arrive. So who wants go first?" Ollivander asked, looking at the children. "Let Seamus go first. He's new to all this," Harry said, pushing his friend forward, not wanting anyone to think that he was special. "Step over here, Mr. Finnegan, and we'll get started," the shop owner said, pointing to a spot in front of the counter, making everyone wonder just how he knew Seamus' last name. Seamus was measured with that slightly defiant tape measurer. He only took 5 tries before he got his oak and dragon heartstring wand. The other 3 went before Harry and got their wands, and then it was his turn. He took his place in the same spot as everyone before him. His mum seemed to be keeping a very sharp eye on Mr. Ollivander, and Harry wondered why. "Right then, Mr. Potter, try this one. Beechwood and dragon heartstring, 9 inches. Nice and flexible. Just take it and give it a wave." Harry took the wand and waved it around a bit, but creepy old man snatched it out of his hand almost at once. Maple and phoenix feather, 7 inches, quite whippy. Try, Harry tried, but he had hardly raised the wand when it too was snatched away. No, no, here, ebony and unicorn hair, 8.5 inches, springy. Go on, and try it out. Harry tried and tried. The pile of useless wands was mounting higher and higher on the spindly chair, but the more wands Mr. Ollivander pulled from the shelves, the happier he seemed to become. The group started groaning. They hadn't expected to be in this shop this long. The kids were starting to ask if they could go outside and wait, and were told no, of course. So they all settled in various places on the wall around the shop and watched the spectacle of Harry making a mess. Tricky customer, eh? Not to worry, we'll find the perfect match here somewhere. I wonder now, yes. Why not? Unusual combination, Harley and Phoenix feather, 11 inches, nice and supple. The dark-haired boy took the wand, hoping that finally he would get one that worked. Harry felt a warmth in his fingers. He raised the wand above his head, brought it swishing down through the dusty air, causing a few to sneeze, and a stream of red and gold sparks shot from the end like a firework, throwing dancing spots of light onto the walls. The group whooped and clapped, and Mr. Ollivander cried, "Oh, bravo! Yes, indeed, oh, very good. Well, 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 how curious, how very curious." Put Harry's wand back into its box and wrapped it in brown paper, still muttering, "Curious, curious. What's curious?" Lily asked, very impatiently. They were all tired. It had taken 30 minutes for Harry to get his wand. Mr. Ollivander fixed Lily with his pale stare and then turned those eyes to Harry. "I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter. Every single wand. It so happens that the phoenix whose tail feather is in your wand gave another feather, just one other. It is very curious indeed that you should be destined for this wand when its brother, why, its brother gave your brother his scar." Harry swallowed, not liking where this was going. "Yes, 13.5 inches. Curious indeed how these things happen. The wand chooses the wizard, remember. I think we must expect great things from you, Mr. Potter. Perhaps you are predestined to protect your brother from his greatest foe. After all, he, who must not be named, did great things. Terrible, yes, but great. I cannot wait until your brother comes in to see what wand would choose him." And with those foreboding words, the group quickly left the shop. The rest of the day was spent in good fun. All the supplies were gathered into the bottomless book bags. The groups met back up at the leaky cauldron, and everyone had lunch. The kids, without parents with them, came back to the manor with the Potters and settled in the game room to wait and talk about their day. Later that night, the Potters sat and discussed Harry's wand. "So, Harry, your mum tells me you got the wand that is brother to Voldemort's. How do you feel?" James asked in concern. They knew that Harry would one day face that bastard, but to have a brother wand might be scaring the young man. Just because the boys were powerful and smart didn't make them less emotional than any other 11-year-old. "Well, at first it freaked me out. Then I talked to Gary, and now I feel better. He said no matter what, he would be by my side. I knew that, but sometimes it is good to hear. That and Gary's wand has the same wood as Voldemort's, from the same tree, even." "What is it, Gary? You and Dragonheart string?" Harry asked his brother and received a nod in return. "Ollivander's was all giddy when that happened, and I know you and Mum will be there as well, not to mention Sally." Right on cue, Sally appeared. "There is only one concern about having these wands. If somehow Voldemort gets his wand back, the wands will not fight against each other. What we need to do is add something extra to the wands to make the feather or the wood, not quite the brother wands. I can turn them into cousins. That way they will still work for you, maybe even better. And if and when Harry's destiny calls, the wands will not interfere," she explained. "It was good to be a guard. And by making them cousins, it would only be curving the hand of fate and not slapping it, which was a big no-no." Harry thought about it for a minute, shared looks with his parents and brother. And at their encouraging looks, he handed his wand to Sally, who he trusted the most after his family. She added a piece of her hair. It would touch the feather inside and change the cells to what she wanted. It would also give the boys a boost in defense against the dark arts. Dark spells would come easier as well. She did the same to Gary's wand and informed the family of what she had done, but warned them to never tell anyone that the boys' wands were touched by death, so to speak. They all gave their words and hid the information behind occlumency barriers. Soon enough the family got tired after a long day of golf and shopping and went to bed, feeling better now that it was all over. Soon it will be school, so the boys wanted to get up early and start studying. Not that they needed it, but the books they studied before were their parents' old books, and maybe there had been changes. They also wanted to make sure they were ahead with potions. Mum had told them how Snape would act, and they weren't going to give him any ammunition. So they all went to bed making plans for the morrow. Lily was happy the day hadn't been the nightmare she thought it was going to be, Brother Juan's notwithstanding.